welcome back to another episode of Spiritually Awkward. I'm Kaylee,
I'm Danielle.
and today's topic is perspective of existence. So, dimensions, you hear that talked about a lot, but dimensions are a perspective of existence. The higher the dimension, the higher of state of being and awareness of everything and everyone. So, we're going to go through the current levels of existence and awareness and
On the planet.
on this planet at least.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, just kind of give a bit of an understanding of what that is. So first we're just gonna describe 3D consciousness, 3D dimension and awareness. So not only is 3D, the things around us and the fact that we can see objects like physically in their state and we are a physical being, but it's also a state view. So if you look at it as like a purely physical state view is what 3D is. So it's not a very um elevated way of thinking, but it's really just something we need to also exist in, right? In order to be here on Earth. So a lot of characteristics that kind of describe that would be seeing yourself as separate from others, survival of the fittest mentality. Uh, Perceptions of good and bad are still a thing when you're thinking about 3D consciousness. So, like, you will have opinions about there being things that are right and wrong. Life is a competition is kind of a overarching theme for sure in 3D consciousness. Um, Fear of not having enough or missing out in your life. You feel like you identify by your looks, your physical appearance, like your job, your car, people that you surround yourself with, all these things are things that you have to feel like matter is definitely a big part of the 3D consciousness mentality.
Like a
Um,
dog eat dog type of
yeah,
mentality.
definitely. Um, so that could also kind of make you feel like you'll miss out. Like if there's not going to be enough for everyone. So you're going to feel like you're missing out or you could miss out. So you really have to, exactly like that dog eat dog, like you really have to work to get something and like you have to take someone down to get there. So um fulfillment will be found in like money and social status. Your thoughts in your mind don't really have any power. They're just there, and everything that happens is coincidence. This is a way of thinking within the 3D. Pain and emotions can be quite difficult to manage. And so there is joy that can be found, but oftentimes we are likely numbing because we don't want to feel the pain. And then we don't feel as much joy either. Um, and then there's no desire to really go within and look at things from a deeper standpoint. You're just skimming the surface of life in the 3D. You're just survival mode essentially, and you're going based off of what society would have you be, what you feel like is the right thing to be for society. So that's something to just be aware of. This is the 3D existence is like. And then we're gonna kind of talk a bit about what 4D state 4D consciousness is, what it means, and also 5D. So, what do you think, Kaylee? Like, how would you kind of describe 4D?
So the 4D state is the ability to see beyond the current perspective, that you're like beyond your current sight, right? Like things that are tangible to you. It's the shifting of your perspective. So if we're looking at like, let's say a cube, a square, right? We can see that it has essentially three sides. We can see the three sides. We can see what's in front of us. If we shift a little bit to the left or to the right, we can see a different facet of it. So it's being aware of more, the existence of more than what we can currently see with our eyes. And
Mhm.
you begin to understand that there is a cause and effect in all of the actions and the words and the ideas that you have. It's the understanding of how thought becomes more of a powerful tool
Mhm.
when wanting to shift the reality that you exist in.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of like, and also maybe with being able to, the thing perceptive, like you're saying, the thing you're just seeing, it's actually like tapping into your intuition or your other abilities that you may believe you do or don't have, like those extra senses, so to speak. It's like really realizing that they're there. And then they kind of are thought-provoking, like, what is this? Why isn't this talked about in society? Like, what does this mean? And it's shifting into that kind of what's my life meant to be? It's kind of like if you think of the 3D, we're focused on the societal goal and all that. And then the 4D gets you thinking like, but what's my purpose? What am I meant to be here doing? And it's almost like elevating our um like increasing our trying to think of what the word is, like when you're creating actual awareness, when you're becoming more self-aware, just I guess it's like almost like a heightened intelligence, but it's not what I'm trying for. I don't know.
A
Anyways,
consciousness, elevated consciousness.
kind of like elevated
Is that what
consciousness. I don't know.
it's going to
Who
hit us
knows?
after this, after we're done
Exactly.
recording.
I'm gonna have to put it in the notes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The mystery word
So
of the day was
so what I'm trying for is like when we were able to have thought and like elevate from being a more like minimalistic animal brain to like have our own individual thoughts. But I'm can't remember that word right now. Uh-huh. So it's okay. So awakening to the idea that we're all connected. So that's kind of what part of the 4D is about. It's like that bridge between being quite highly elevated in consciousness. It's a nice like bridge to get you there from 3D onwards. It's definitely like a stepping stone we need to be aware that we are all connected in a way. And how does that work? And how do we balance that based on the ideals and perspectives that we've been taught? So
is
there's,
it kind of like it's is it kind of like a liminal space between the 3D and 5D where I mean it's the space between but you have that uh where you can stop and think about the things,
I
right? It's
agree.
not the
Yeah.
go 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 of the 3D and then the kind of like nonchalant of the 5D. It's like,
The bit in
nothing
between.
matters.
It's like a bit of
Yes.
everything meets in the middle, like
Yeah.
exactly. Because
So
some of the
is
things
it
in, Mhm.
considered like a liminal space?
Yeah,
Like a
probably.
liminal space of like in your mind.
Hmm.
I don't know. We'll have
Yeah.
to,
Yeah, that's really interesting. I like that
yeah.
thought process. Yeah. Definitely like there's more there than meets the eye, and it's continuing to get you thought-provoking like state of being. Um, so it helps you connect the two, 3D and 5D, and it's a next stepping stone. Um, and like you're saying, thoughts are more powerful. You start to think, well, maybe there's more to this, like my thoughts do affect my reality. So it's a little bit of curiosity. It's not 100% belief yet, but it's definitely getting you to the place of like, oh, like maybe I can create some things in my reality based on my way of being. Because I've noticed that when I was in a certain state of mind, those things came true. Regardless of circumstance, it just happened to be like it was a little bit more shocking when those things come true and you've thought them to be true.
E- yes, especially like it's I feel like it's also easier to like start picking up on the synchronicities
Hmm.
towards like getting that goal. Like I literally thought about this yesterday and now we're talking about it today. Like those kind of little tiny synchronicities that
Yeah.
like start to
Mhm.
build upon that belief that like yeah, I actually do have the potential to change my reality by my thoughts.
It's my
I mean,
boy.
it's yeah, I mean it's
Yeah.
and if we want to go like the science route, the psychology route, like if you're constantly in a shit mood and you're just everything is doom and gloom for you, right? Like that's
Mhm.
you're gonna feel that way. But if you're like, you
Yeah.
know what, that sucked. Next, that kind of like elevated, right? Like
Yeah.
we have proven with psychology and science that like at least thinking positively and speaking positively about yourself and others
Hmm.
increases happiness in you. So if anything else, you know,
Yeah.
thinking like that couldn't be harmful, whether or not you think that like if I'm like I want a red Ferrari by the time that
Hmm.
I'm 35, that you're gonna have a red Ferrari. Like besides all that, just
Yeah.
the happiness piece of that, I
And
think,
that
is
goes
also
back
like
into
elevating.
3D. Like wanting a red
Yeah,
Ferrari is definitely like, is
yeah.
that really for your highest good? Yeah, we don't know. We don't know.
Unless
Yeah.
it's for your inner child, then yes.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, now we're going places. I love it. Yeah, absolutely.
Justifying everything. It's like that girl math, but like spiritualist math.
Ooh, we have to have a spiritualist math like reel or something going out. That's
Yeah.
hilarious. Love it. All right. So some other things to also consider with 4D duality and the idea of good and bad is still experienced. So we talked about that with the 3D, like there is still the idea of good and bad in 3D. When we look at it in 4D, it's like that transition state of it maybe slowly not being a thing. Um, all good?
Yep.
Okay. So so we're looking at like with the 4D, the good and bad can be experienced, but you have more compassion and understanding behind it. So I'm trying to think of like a good example for that is it's like when you think of someone or something that's happening that's really like in your opinion and what society has deemed is bad, right? You can see it through a lens of understanding that mm, that you have more compassion for the individual or the thing happening, even though society would like probably rip you to shreds almost for that understanding and compassion. You're not saying you agree with what the thing is that's being done has done. You just see that it's not up to you to fix it or to have an opinion. It's up to like the universe to let things work itself out. It's up to that individual or situation to learn from that. And maybe they came here for something that you don't understand. And so it's kind of like that in between of understanding that it's you're not here to um have an opinion, but you still sort of do because you kind of like have it ingrained in you from being 3D. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like I saw an example of this for me personally,
Mhm.
right? So there was a TikTok of a guy who was like carving his name into the side of like a brick building, right? It wasn't the front, it was the side of it. And like everybody was like, "Oh my God, that's like the worst." And like on a level, that is the worst. Don't vandalize shit. But then you learn about the wall that he's writing his name into, and there's dates from like the 1500s. So people have been doing this for hundreds of years. And then to shift the perspective further to be like, okay, but if somebody did not do that, we wouldn't have known that from that time period somebody had said that. Like somebody was there. Like we have examples of like archaeology where like the Vikings had written on like stones or logs or something, so and so was here. There's dirty jokes in the bathrooms in Rome. So I'm saying like yes, it is don't do that like from a moral standpoint,
Yeah.
but also like the psychology behind that is like since humans began writing, right? Like that I want to know, to let somebody know that I existed. So right, so like we
Mhm.
switched our perspective between like, wow, you're a shit person for
Yeah.
defacing like historical buildings, to like it's human,
Yeah,
right?
and being more understanding on like the basic necessity of humanity to feel valuable. Um,
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And like what was oh, I had a thought, but it's gone.
But so so like with that one, I had made a post being like pointing out the side of like humanity has been doing this for thousands of years,
Mm.
and like how crazy it is that we can see that somebody from like 416 BC or AD, let me get my shit right. AD was saying I was here.
Yeah.
I stood in this spot. Like I
Kind
mean
of
like to
connects
shift the
us to
exactly.
the
And
different eras.
so I was pointing out like that perspective shift, and like a lot of people did not like
Yeah.
that. But again, that's
Yeah.
that's kind of
And they're
that's kind
rooted
of what a
in
light worker
3D.
does.
Yeah.
They're rooted in
Hmm.
the 3D, but that's what a light worker does. But let's keep going with the
Oh, we'll
4D,
go
and
into that
and
later.
then I will
Yeah.
go on my tirade about light workers.
And I was kind of seeing like the synchronicity of the level of assumption that happens in 3D. We're assuming we know that person's story. We're because this is wrong because of the story we have in our mind about it, but we don't really know necessarily. We may not, we may, but you know, you're not in that person's shoes. So what makes you like, who makes you the judge in that sense? Like you can see the assumption that happens and the reaction that happened in your story versus maybe the more 4D vision of it, which was I have some understanding and compassion for this person and like as a human, what they're potentially how they're walking through life in that sense, right? That's very interesting. Hmm. So some of the things that will start to be noticeable in the 4D shift are really the focus on um, healthy lifestyle and meditation and like things that environmentally impact from our choices. So being that awareness of, yeah, like I need to take better care of this physical form that I've chosen to take because it will affect other things around me too. And like having that compassion for the earth or for others and for other living entities. Um, and then oftentimes that strong desire to find your purpose is the big one. The follow your passions and find your purpose. And that self-worth piece is the big one that starts to
Mm,
evolve in the 4D.
yes.
The
Yeah.
noticing of the self-worth piece that you are worthy to live the life of your dreams. Like that's the kind of the growth that's happening there in 4D.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like starting to realize like you are a piece of the divine consciousness of
Mhm.
like the universe. Like you are a piece of everything.
Yeah.
And like it's that starting to come to that understanding too. Is
Mhm.
like you just think like, wow, you know what I am? I am a piece of the universe.
Yeah.
Like it, and then that sets you up. So like that's I think that's also part of like the shift from 3D to 4D
Yeah.
is that
Hmm.
realization.
Definitely. Yeah. And then there's like life is meant to be enjoyed.
Mm,
Like removing the guilt piece that we often have around we need to do this and this and that to be a worthy human, to be valuable. So kind of starting to unpack that a bit, which, you know, that's important.
it is, really,
Yeah.
really is.
Hmm. We'll start to perceive the world through six senses, more than like six, not five, like including our intuition. Starts to grow our awareness of our intuition and potentially our other gifts that we all have connection to, psychic, mediumship. Seeking a deeper meaning to life. So wanting to feel like you are following the path that you suddenly believe you must be here for, a path. Like there must be something you're supposed to be doing. And that seeking a deeper meaning to life is definitely like pushing you when you're in the 4D. Um, yeah, seeing the synchronicity and the magic of the universe. Like you said, feeling like, wow, I'm a part of it. That reminds me of that think it was a meme or something online, and it was saying this one person was like, "Oh, don't worry about her. She's like not important," or like something to that effect. And the person was like, "Wow, I've never met anyone who's not important."
Yeah.
Like that was really good, really mind-blowing, those like thought-provoking moments. I'm like, "Yep, very true."
Yeah, it's those little like nuggets from the universe, the little reminders, right? Like the little like it's like that the universe gives you those ooh, piece of candy.
Mhm.
Ooh, piece of candy. Like those little like breadcrumb trails, right? Like
Yes. Like, oh, this is interesting. Like, how does one reach that state? So this is kind of like getting us into talking about the 5D and how the 4D is definitely like a glimpse into the 5D, which is it's kind of difficult to live in the 5D surrounded by 3D individuals. So
mm,
we'll kind of explain a little bit about what makes up the 5D consciousness and that. So yeah, once you reach it, it's hard to go back. There's a
yeah.
lot of people probably exist in the 4D on Earth for now, and they probably pop back and forth between all three, but yeah. Um, the 5D state is the understanding that we are all one and we are all connected. 100% belief in that. Like there's no hopping back and forth at that point. Like that's what you believe. So that is, a conversation that may not go over well with certain people, and it's you're not there to convince them. It's just something you believe, right?
Hmm.
But they may not be able to even comprehend if they're in the 3D. Like they don't relate, they don't agree, they don't get it. It's not important to them, right? And that's okay. That's when you're in the 5D, you kind of don't feel the need to convince anyone of that. It's just a fact. And you're just
Yeah.
moving through your life in that fact. Um, life becomes an adventure of growth, and there is no such thing as good or bad. So that is another one that's very challenging for us to reach to that point of like there is no such thing as good or bad, right?
There's just perspective.
There's just perspective. It's, yeah, it's kind of
It's
mind-blowing
that
even.
it's that duality. Like it's that you can't have one without the other
Hmm.
state of like
Yeah. Yeah, and
be
it's not
like, yes,
necessarily bad, it's experience. I'm just like,
exactly. I know, and like this one, like I've noticed that when I say things like that to people, get really upset
I know.
when they're like, there is bad things. I mean, does
I
it suck
get
to
that.
experience things? Yes. But like again, it's the perspective of
Hmm.
how you're choosing to look at it.
Yeah. Like we understand there are some terrible, terrible things that can happen in a person's life. Like terrible,
Yeah.
terrible, terrible
Yeah.
things, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And not to say that some of those things have not been experienced by each of us in our own way, but we're
Yeah.
trying to see the point of it all. Are we meant to just sit here and focus on those things and dwell on those things and let them affect us to a certain extent? Or eventually, is there a higher purpose? Is there more to life? Is there really any point in dwelling on it?
Did I need to experience that to get to the next level?
big one. Some people would really argue that. I have had people argue that with me that they don't believe that things happen for a reason, especially, well, certain things, right? Things that are unfathomable.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that it's not for us to judge that. It's just for you to experience life through your own experiences and go, okay, well, how can I make my life better? You're still in the driver's seat. If you can be in control, you can decide. It's a tough one. Yeah, so there's a higher purpose for all things. Every experience holds meaning, even the hard ones. It's like, what did you gain from that perspective? You've gained something, maybe protecting others. Maybe, there's always going to be, like you said, the duality, the flip of it, the growth side of it. Yeah. Um, and then in the 5D, there's stronger feelings of love and connectedness with others, the planet, even galaxies around us. So it's kind of like taking our 3D idea of what love is and exploding it times like a million. Like the feeling is not romantic love. It's like that unconditional love you got from someone in your life, maybe a parent figure, or if you've ever experienced that with someone. If not, you should be able to experience it inside yourself, and that's the point of it. It's connecting to the rest of the universe.
Yeah. I was trying to
Mhm.
explain to somebody that like they're like I the how it feels to be unconditionally loved by someone. And I said, "Do you unconditionally love yourself?" And they're like, "No, it's really nice to have somebody that loves you." Yeah. That's why you first and foremost should
Yeah.
do that for yourself.
And
And
that's
that
this,
being
yeah.
said, it
Hmm.
is especially existing where you're around people who have this like 3D mentality
Yeah.
is like being able to love yourself despite that. So it is 100%. And I struggle with it every damn day that it's easier said than done to love yourself
Yeah.
because you're constantly under the barrage of like, you don't make enough money, you aren't skinny enough, you're not pretty enough, like your hair is ugly, your clothes are old. Like it's
Hmm.
like so we're always under that pressure, but like
Yeah.
it is the perspective
Hmm.
in which we take also elevates whether or not
Yeah.
we're getting sucked down back into the 3D or we're staying at an elevated state.
Yeah.
I know I
It's
just
fair.
completely segued there,
No, it's true
but
though. It actually was
it's
accurate.
it's that self-love piece that
Yeah.
I I don't even know like so in one of the previous episodes like my experience with like the gift focus session, right, was like that I was able to identify what unconditional love was like for the first time in my entire life. And it was like so explosive for me that I just cried for like 20 minutes
Hmm.
because I had never experienced that. Now, what if I could experience that towards myself without question?
Yeah. That's the 5D.
That is the 5D.
Yeah.
And I made you cry, and I'm sorry.
Okay. It's a
I
it's a
started
beautiful
tearing up too.
thing. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like this, just you talking about this is helping maybe some others of our listen, like helping you listeners identify like, oh, okay, yeah, I could use some work in this area. Like, do you seek outside validation for love? Do you seek someone else to make you feel loved and worthy and valuable? Because you'll never get that outside of yourself.
Yeah,
You
you
won't.
can't.
You need to get it here.
Yeah, first and foremost,
Yeah. And then you'll have
because
exactly.
it's on more solid ground if it's coming
Mhm.
from you.
Yeah. And
It's
then you'll
not
know your
fickle. You
worth.
can't lose it.
Hmm. Yeah, you
No
can't
one
lose
can take
it.
it from you.
And
It can't get mad at you about what you cooked for dinner and like that was the final straw and it leaves. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah, it's never gonna leave you.
that self-love
Yeah.
is going to be there
Hmm.
forever. And
Yeah. We'll
me
always
being the
have you.
hypocrite, right? It's a constant battle. It's a constant
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. We're not saying we're perfect. We're saying we're
No.
noticing it and we want to bring awareness to everyone else to maybe notice it a bit too and go, yeah,
Yes.
it's a daily awareness. Um, so, if you're noticing that maybe you're not there yet, what can you do that's one step getting you there? Getting you there to loving yourself the most out of anything else so that you can set yourself up for success in relationships. Because if you can't ultimately love yourself no matter what, how can you then be sure what you want in someone else or want in the people in your lives? There's no like structure there for you. Yeah.
How do you measure
Hmm.
what love is
Yeah.
if you can't give it to yourself?
Yeah.
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 That's my soapbox for the day.
Yeah, so we're looking
Self-love.
at self-love. So love and compassion is everything, and there is a lack of judgment in the 5D. Like there just is no judgment, just compassion and understanding and love for everything. And understanding that everyone is on their own journey, being almost neutral in a sense. Like you're not having an opinion. You're there to just be a part of your own journey. However, others interact with you, you figure that out as you go. The desire to live from a place of pure authenticity is really strong in the 5D. Like you want to be 100% yourself because you love yourself 100%. And you're coming from that place of like, I love me 100%. Why wouldn't I want to be me 100% of the time?
Right. And that authenticity too. That authenticity, if you show up as your authentic self, you're going to inspire others to also show up their authentic self.
Hmm.
You're going to, it's a ripple effect,
Yeah.
right? You're like, I'm here, I'm weird, let's do this. And then everybody's like, yeah, let's
Yeah.
do it. And then it ripples
Mm,
out, right?
that's
Like
phenomenal.
being your authentic self, like also is like a very underrated thing, I think, because we're all trying to hide
Hmm.
from whatever it is that we're hiding from. And it is that self-love piece too. Like showing up authentically for yourself first
Yeah.
is part of your self-love journey.
Hmm. Yeah. And even like honestly, if it feels really awkward at first, it's because you're trying to drop a mask that you've had on your whole life. Like give yourself some like, I don't know, give yourself a break, really. Like, and I like the saying fake it till you make it, honestly. It's like you kind of know who you want to be, so I'm gonna be that and see how it feels. And you're just working through it. You're figuring it out. When you're like, man, I just feel so free after doing that. Like then you know that's it. Like if you really truly feel liberated and untouchable, like that's a good place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's no competition in the 5D. There's enough for everyone in the universe. There's no scarcity mindset. Like there's no need for that. You ultimately manifest your thoughts, like create your reality. It's quite powerful. Um, and then there's the belief that like 60 and 70, that if you are in that dimension, your thoughts are so powerful that all you have to do is think about a location and then you can travel to it. Now, this would be most likely you're no longer in a physical human body, right? Like you're potentially a more elevated being. So this is kind of getting a little more like a little more woo-woo, a little more out there, right? But there's been conversations with beings of this caliber already. So they've explained this to us.
Yes, they have.
Yeah.
Broke my brain.
Breaks the brain.
It,
Yeah.
yeah, breaks it.
Yeah. So without like the physical body in these states, you can fly wherever you want, as fast as you want. You have a very strong understanding of unity consciousness. So it's the fact that like every consciousness is connected. It is all part of one, if God, if you will, or source, whatever you want to call it. We are all part of it. We are a piece of it, living our own little version of life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and then so there's three key differences that you can see that change from each of those dimensions that we were kind of talking about. Perception of time, power of thoughts, and feelings of oneness. So that's some an easy way if you guys want to like write these down in like a journal. What's your perception of time? Have you looked into different perceptions of time that are out there and how do you think about time? And what do you think of the power of your thoughts? Do you think they have power? And what's your feelings on oneness as a whole? Do you feel separate from others, or do you feel like maybe that you're part of a group of individuals that are one or a group of the universe, whatever you want to call it, right? That's a good way to kind of give you an idea of maybe where you're sitting for the most part. Hmm. And we can talk a bit about time. So we experience in the 3D like a linear timeline. And then as you start to expand your knowledge a bit on the fact that time is potentially not linear and it's endless and happening all at once. It's a little mind-blowing, but honestly, that's how you can understand a lot more about the experience of the universe of being more than just what you are in your physical form of a human.
Yeah, like once you can break yourself free from the the finite human fact of linear time, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's that's when it starts to make a lot more sense. Like that piece, that linear time piece, really honestly is one of the hardest, but the most
Yeah.
detrimental in doing away with.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Like,
can appreciate linear time for how it is and functions on the 3D, but it doesn't help us expand.
mhm.
So forget
And
linear time. Just kidding. I mean, yes, but don't.
like if you still need to
It's for
like
the future.
be in place A at a certain time, we get that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
There's still rules to this place.
unfortunately, yeah, so this is why the 4D is pretty important because I think that tying in of both sides to be able to survive in this world until things maybe change, until certain structures are maybe no longer needed or in existence in humanity. Who knows? We're not there yet, but could be some changes coming down the pipeline. Yeah,
Cross our
maybe.
fingers.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe we can tie a little bit of the light workers, how the light workers fit into all of this. Take it.
So, so us being light workers, right? Our job is literally to go back and forth between these. Like we're really obviously getting to the 5D state of consciousness is like hell yeah. Like it's like your dream job that you've always wanted and it makes you so happy. And then you like but part of that job is to like go clean out public toilets, right? Yes, that sucks. It absolutely sucks. But that is the job of a light worker, right? Like you have to go from a lower density to a high density and back and forth between, because our job is to help as many people as possible make the jump,
Yeah.
make the make the shift, right? To start getting their minds to think about different things and different perspectives and how to observe things. So our job is to literally go back and forth between,
Hmm.
right? Like,
Yeah.
of course, like the 5D state of being is like the resting point. That's the
Hmm.
Jesus Christ, I'm good for right now. Like I've had enough.
Actual
And
Jesus
then
Christ consciousness.
actual Jesus Christ, actual Jesus
Nice.
Christ.
I like it.
Um, and so it's that going back and forth, right? Like
Hmm.
that is the job of a light worker, though.
Yeah.
And then also the other job of the light worker is while you're doing this back and forth, right? You're a little bit every time transmuting the energy, the lower vibrations,
Yeah.
a little bit at a time,
And your
trying to
spark
shift
is sparking others.
to get so it creates a snowball effect essentially. Like so
Hmm.
you are helping one person, you're transmuting some of the energy, you go back,
Interesting.
recoup, come back, do that.
Yeah.
So I mean, have all of us made it to 5D? No. All of us have not. Some of us have
Yeah.
just discovered that this is what the hell we're doing with our lives. This is our
Yeah.
purpose. This is our 4D life purpose experience. But
Yeah.
essentially that's what light
Hmm.
workers are. That's what our job is here. And it doesn't matter where we have come from in the universe and what we were before. What our job is now is to give others that hand to help
Yes.
them see that
Yes.
perspective, to experience the love, to gain a higher perspective, to essentially be better human beings.
Hmm. And just because we were 5D or higher in past lifetimes, maybe we didn't come here for that. We didn't come here to be in 5D necessarily. We came here with it to have an awareness of it and to, like you said, bring people through the gates. So,
Yeah.
you know, don't beat yourself up if you're not in 5D or something. Like it's really not about that as like an end goal. That's just the knowledge piece that you need to do the work you came here to do, which is it's a little harder than that. It's not here to just, oh, made it to 5D. I'm good. I'm grand. Like, maybe that's your like what you were meant to be here to do, but most likely not. There's a lot of work to be done here on Earth, right? So
Mm,
we're here to like just plant some seeds,
yeah,
drag people along
exactly.
that are ready. Yeah. That's funny. So this kind of brings us a little bit into what our next topic is going to be a little bit about.
Yeah, dragging people into a higher state of consciousness. So, in wanting to drag yourself through the states of awareness, it leaves you open to vulnerability, right? Shifting everything that you knew, dropping all the old belief systems to when we're shifting, right? When we're inquiring about more,
Mhm.
it often leaves people with a lack of directions because all of a sudden you're like, well, now what the hell? Like,
Yeah.
what do I do now? Now that like nothing makes sense anymore to me. So they have a lack of direction and they're desperate, right? They
Hmm.
know that there's more, they want more, they need to learn more.
Yeah.
So they want to everybody wants to be happy, healthy, and content, right? So
Yeah.
they often look outside of themselves first in wanting to know more and gain a greater understanding. And this is where people who prey on people who are just seeking answers and wanting to learn have the easiest time taking advantage
Mhm.
of this like crucial vulnerability when someone has dropped all of their beliefs and have now essentially rebuilding what they
Yeah.
know and what they believe. Their reality is not solid anymore.
Yeah.
So when diving into the rabbit hole, sometimes like we all find that shiny information and we're like, ooh, that
Mhm.
sounds interesting. And it can distract us and make us forget that we still need to use discernment,
Mhm.
right? We can't
Yeah.
just take everything for face value. We still have to question things. So, in our next episode, we'll be talking about some of the ways in which people can be taken advantage of and how to look for the red flags in the people who are taking advantage of others in their
Yeah.
vulnerable states.
Including like communities, looking out
Include,
for
yes,
scams, looking out for potential cults, all those kinds of things that are very prevalent in, so-called spiritual communities or whatever, like religious communities, but they are coming up as well in spiritual communities because, like, oh, this is a great place to take advantage of people that are in a vulnerable state. So we want to bring some
exactly.
awareness to that. Yeah.
Yes.
So, so seekers beware. That is our next episode. So what's our homework for this week, Kaylee, for everybody on this episode? Um, what was it? So, okay.
I think it's journaling. Journaling,
Yeah.
like how I forgot what it was. You have to tell me
So,
now
yeah,
because you were the
okay.
genius that came up with
I love
it.
this.
You made the homework this week.
Oh my gosh. I love it. Okay, so we're looking at where do you find yourself existing throughout the day within these different dimensions we are talking about today. So, journaling your thoughts, journaling your reactions, journaling your opinions, your priorities, that kind of stuff. Like, where do you sit? Do you sit more 3D? Were you more physical oriented, more, involved in society in that sense of like, I have a duty to be this and this because society deems it so? Do you maybe fall a bit into the 4D where you can kind of see the perspectives that we talked about today? Um, and then you could also see if you fit into some of the 5D categories. So that's going to be your homework this week is, pay attention. Thought like food for thought. Where do I sit within that? Do I want to start doing some work in that area and making some changes or not? That's our homework for the week. Yeah.
Yes.
And then we still have our goal of 100 subscribers. So once we reach 100 subscribers, we're going to open up a Discord for everybody.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We're going to start building that community that we've
Yeah.
been talking about.
Yeah. Safe place.
Yes.
Hmm.
So thank you guys for
Yeah.
listening to this week's episode of Spiritually Awkward. We will see you next week.